A Tomb of Green and Black. Chapter 1. Good Drinks and Sisterhood. He had walked a dozen hills today, and a dozen more before that. Pain shot through the soles of his feet. Hunger crawled through his gut. He kept his left arm hanging on his shoulder. It was the only way to keep it stable, lest chaos be let forth. He whistled and raised his free arm, a large brown falcon descending upon it. He stared off into the clouded skyline. I know we should keep going, but I need to rest. I could use some food. A place to sleep would be nice, he said to his feathered companion. It tilted its head. Fly ahead. We'll reconvene later. He removed his left arm, if only for a moment, and gently rubbed the bird of prey, before it set off to the sky once again. He looked at the distant town, pillars of smoke escaping chimneys as children played in the streets. Of course, by the time he would get down there, the storm would have picked up. He brought his cloak to a full close, hiding his greatest secret. No one need know nor question. And he began his walk down this hill, as he had a dozen times today, and a dozen more before that. By the time he had reached the town, the streets sat silently with the falling rain. This was an all-consuming storm, the kind that devoured all light and hammered the ground with a volley of rain. The falcon sat on his shoulder as the pair looked for somewhere to go, their eyes catching on a sign above a building. Carrot Corn Bar, it read. A little drink would be nice, and warmth inside as well. His bird made a noise, something that spoke with disdain. If it was noisy in there, we would have heard it. It's late, it's rainy, and this is a small town. Most people are either sleeping or home warming up. It'll be fine, I promise. It made a softer noise, and the two made their way inside. He pushed through the doors and took a look inside. Empty, like he thought. The only thing around was the burning lanterns providing light, and the echoes of the storm above. Circular tables and booths lined the area, with a large bar towards the back. He sat in one of the stools there and waited patiently, relieved to finally be sitting. Be right there, dear. Just gotta finish up something back here. A female voice rang out, a lot more country than he would have thought. Then again, it is called Carrot Corn Bar, so I guess it's only fair that a farm girl works here. After a moment, a young woman rounded the corner, tucking a rag back into her blue jeans and placing a glass on the counter behind him. Sorry about that wait. Thought no one else would be coming back. She turned around and made eye contact with the falcon, and her face immediately became hostile. Hey, no birds in here! He looked at the falcon and back at the woman. Artemis? I don't care what its name is, I ain't letting no birds in here. A dog laid down behind him. A white dog whose hair covered its eyes. But you let that dog lay around here. The woman leaned over the counter and looked at it, who groaned slightly as it laid down. That? Well, that's little Miss Viola Day. She wouldn't hurt a fly. The birds nearly tore out my daddy's hair. I ain't wanting none of them flying rats in my bar. She crossed her arms over her chest as the man moved near the windows. He opened it as Artemis glared at the woman. Sorry, Artemis. Just wait here and try to stay dry. I'll bring you some food if I can. It made a disapproving clicking, but stopped outside nevertheless. He walked back to the bar as the woman got back to cleaning another glass with her rag, brushing a strand of red hair out of her face. My apologies if I've offended you. I'm sure I've ruined my first impression, he said as he sat down. The woman shrugged as she placed a second glass behind her. And I was late getting to you, so both of us kinda messed up here. Right. The woman smirked. Name's Allison. Folks around here call me Allie, though. And judging by the spooky bird and mysterious cloak, you ain't from round here, ain't ya? He shook his head. I'm just passing through. She smiled a little, pleased to meet a new face. Well, this drink's on the house then. A little hospitality for the stranger. What's your poison? Bourbon, if you have it. Her smile grew as she pulled out 2 glasses. Ah, I see you're a man who can hold his liquor. Give me 1 sec. She grabbed the bottle from under the counter and started pouring into their respective glasses, sliding one to him and holding hers up. He raised his and took a long, slow sip. A sharp kick to the nerves was met with a rich caramel and oak flavor. He placed his drink down, savoring every last drop. You have no idea how much I needed a drink with some kick to it. Allie rubbed her chin, taking in the sight of the stranger in front of her. So let me guess. You're a rapture, ain't ya? Excuse me? I mean, you're the kind of person who's been forgotten by the world. Thought dead, but only sleeping, I presume. His mind flashed back to months earlier, when he first awoke. When dust choked his lungs and his joints ached with a long-gone slumber. And he remembered the broken and destroyed city around him. And he remembered the scars on his hands. You could say that. Yeah, well, most raptured are friendlier looking, not talking to birds, or hiding something beneath their cloak and thinking the bar lady wouldn't notice. He chuckled. You're quite perceptive. My mama taught me to notice a stick up from a mile away. Now show me your gun. I can tell you ain't here for violence. He pulled his cloak back, revealing his swung arm and thin clothes. If only it was a gun I'm hiding. That would be easier to explain. She looked at his arm, and a small amount of guilt tore through her face. Ah, my apologies. Are you good, or... I'm fine. Thank you. You get used to it. No wonder you needed a drink. Bandits get you, or something a little less... human? It was broken a while back. It's nearly healed now. I fell. Well then, looks like I got a tough one in here. A quiet moment passed between them as he moved his cloak back, biting his arm once more. There was some amount of guilt behind his eyes. She had been so nice to him. It felt wrong to lie to her face. But the truth was far less kind. She spoke again, pulling him back from his thoughts. You're a particular kind of rapture. I can tell. He pushed his now empty glass aside. Explain. Most raptures stumble through Lorelei looking for a bed and something, or someone, to do. Vagrants from another time bored out of their minds. Not you, though. A bar lady can always tell with her patrons. You're a man on a mission. He stared behind her, looking into the reflection of the glass. His own pale face staring back at him, and a lost voice echoing a tired message. You were left for a reason. Those marks are your own. Your time to wake up is not an accident. So go, find why you are here. You know, there's a chapel on the other side of town. Sure you noticed it on your way in. It's mostly tended by the Sisterhood there. There's a nun who usually stays up at this hour. A cute little night owl who keeps the place tidy while the others go home. I may not have what you're here for, and maybe she doesn't either. But I'm sure she'll give you a place to wait out this rain. When she swings by for breakfast in the morning, I'll make sure to give her a plate for you. You'd do that for me? Of course. I'm sure a good hearty breakfast will help get you through whatever demons followed behind you. He stood up from his seat and slowly raised his left arm towards her, keeping up the impression of an aching limb. Thank you for your hospitality. It means a lot to me. She leaned over the bar and gingerly shook his hand. He began a prayer in the silent sanctum of his mind. May good fortune find you upon your waking slumber next morning, and may all things go your way. A green light glowed softly in his right hand. He made sure she wouldn't see it. He turned around and waved goodbye as he headed towards the door, Allie moving towards the back with Viola in tow. He placed his left arm back in its spot as Artemis landed on his shoulder. He looked down the road, and as he had done a dozen times before, he began his journey once more. Every night was the same routine. dust the pews and banisters, vacuum the common area, ring the bell at midnight, and pray. Prayer was her favorite part. It allowed her to collect her thoughts from the day. This night was different, however. The other sisters had done a lot of the cleaning already for her as a surprise, leaving her with nothing else to do but wait till midnight. And so she sat there, drinking a mug of tea and listening to the rain. She sat her mug down and clasped her hands together. After a moment, she began to hum. She'd sing if she had only known the words, old memories from her youth, long since censoring any semblance of lyrics. She couldn't remember much from that time, only that the mothers of the covenant were kind, and that they were gone. Occasionally, she could still hear their gilded spirits, and she's unsure of what they would think of her now. Young Catherine, the golden child, chosen from the gods to be gifted of light and brimstone, bound to this plane of existence by the inner turmoil between light and dark, not blessed by divinity, but forced to stave off damnation, learning how to conquer her tremendous burden through the trials of sisterhood. For all of them had mastered the ways of ceremonial light, their radiance enough to eclipse the darkness she must carry. She reached for her notebook and pencil. Day 2019 of my journey towards sisterhood, and, again, I find myself alone tonight. Not that I should complain. The peace and quiet of this great place is enough to quell even the most horrifying of thoughts. Thanks to such a blessing, I was able to conquer and suppress this burden once more. Although, there was an incident. Almost. I saw a rather large four-legged critter tonight, roaming around the bell tower as if looking for food, and I felt that cursed excitement again, and the dark visions of fire and brimstone kicked in. That infernal rush to spill blood on divine soil. When I came to, the critter had scurried away, seemingly unscathed. I was not as lucky. I don't believe I harmed the creature, but I do believe I stopped myself from doing so. Thankfully, the black and pink of my habit covered the stains of blood, although it seems like it took much more force to resist tonight. I've started the washing process with the machine downstairs, and my clothes are currently being purged of my impure desires. It is nice to be in the lighter summer clothes I've been provided by my fellow sisters. I quite like the chill in the air, and with the symbols of the divine embroidered on the cloth, I shall find it easier to resist such foul temptations. I will bring these thoughts to the attention of Father Dimitri on Wednesday when he arrives in town. Perhaps he may have some answers for me. He told me once that it is through my struggle that the gods may find peace. Their burdens are mine, the honor of carrying their nightmares being something only I can handle. I will pray that the divine find sweet slumber tonight, something I may never have. Something disturbed her writing. A banging on the door downstairs echoed through the halls. Who could arrive at the chapel at this hour? She asked herself as she began the walk downstairs, grabbing a lantern off the wall and walking down the aisles of the worship hall. She smoothed out her habit as she reached for her doorknob, slowly opening the heavy oak doors. Hello? She slurred out, looking side to side, only to find her visitor leaning against one of the pillars that held up the entrance. He sat there, shrouded with a dark green cloak, a falcon resting on his shoulder. The two made eye contact, taking in their opposite appearances. Catherine cleared her throat, finally finding her voice amongst the rain. Were you the one who knocked? She asked, knowing that it was a dumb question as she said it. The man pushed himself off the pillar. Yeah, didn't mean to disturb you at such an hour, but I was told that you could help me. Catherine stepped through the door fully, clasping her hands in front of her with the dignity and grace they had drilled into her. Well, may I ask what the nature of your visit is? Are you here for late night worship, or... No, I'm not a patron of this church or whatever. She furrowed her eyes and turned to leave. Then I'm afraid you have no business here. Allison sent me. She stopped in the doorway, before turning her head towards him. Allison, Allie, said you could help me. I'm from out of town and I could use a place to rest. She said I'm a rapture, I think. And my bird and I need a place to rest while we wait out this rain. Is that so? I promise I won't be any trouble. Same with my bird. She's the, quiet type, anyways. Artemis made small chirps, both emphasizing and ruining his point. Catherine turned round fully. Well, he doesn't seem drunk, and he does look road-weary. I'm sure the Divine would be happy to see me take in someone, even if they don't belong to the Covenant. Well, if you are a traveling rapture, then who am I to deny you sanctuary? Step inside, and you may bring the bird. He smiled a little, almost surprised by the hospitality of this town. And as so many before him had, they stepped inside the church. So, if you don't mind me asking, what is this place? He asked as he looked around the building. This is the Covenant of the Lights Choir, a sisterhood of women who lend our voices in praise to the Divine above. The holy light of the Divine shined upon us, and we are here to spread its gospel to others. Catherine raised her arms into the air, catching herself in her own excitement. Most of the denizens of this town were members of the church, and frequented this place in times of prayer and worship. She caught her breath and contained her energy. This building in particular is the Church of Lost Songs, raised from the soil to guide wandering deviants back into the holy light of the Divine. From what he could tell, the building and everything inside was still relatively new, maybe 2 or 3 decades old. He was surprised by the size and architecture. The stone and woodworking far outmatched his expectations for what they could accomplish. Even with minimal technology, this place truly felt divine. 2 rows of pews and carpet, all leading up to the sanctuary of the worship hall. The altar was different from the churches of his time. That is to say, there wasn't an altar at all. Instead, it was carved and stepped like the stairs of a choir. Black and pink banners hung from the upstairs banisters, each adorned with a different insignia. He recognized most of them. Not that he would let her know that. She led him up a flight of stairs towards the upper floors, this area designed for the daily work required of the Sisterhood. Catherine looked over her shoulder. If I may, can you tell me what her name is? He bent his arm in a strained effort to pet his feathered companion, who sat patiently perched on his shoulder. I call her Artemis, since it's the only name she responds to. Catherine brightened from her attempt at stoicism. Like the goddess of the hunted moon of the Greek pantheon? He looked puzzled, surprised that Greek mythology even made it this far out of the collapse. Yeah, I guess so. It suits her well. Artemis clearly liked all the attention. So, do you have a name? She stopped and ducked into an extravagant bow, bringing her left arm around her chest and her right in the air behind her. I am novice Catherine Longlow, pleased to make your acquaintance. He was taken aback by the gesture, unsure of what the proper response was. No need for the, formalities. Nice to meet you, Catherine. I'm Isaac. She smiled and returned to their walk. We're not too far from one of the guest rooms. Come now. She shuffled a key ring out of her pocket, unlocking the door to a residential hallway. Isaac took a look outside, watching as the rain fell harder than before. Their carpeted steps and fall of rain the only noise between them both. The haunting silence of this sacred place felt cold against his skin. Even in the dark of the storm, these halls still held their visage of beauty. Isaac took a breath, attempting to break the quiet. So, you help people like me all the time, or? No, you're actually the first person I've ever done this with during the night, so I apologize if this seems a little unprofessional. She stopped at a door and placed a lantern down, struggling to remember which key belonged to this door. Well, for a first timer, you're doing great. Normally people just make me sleep in, like, a basement with a bed of straw. Well, this is no bed of straw, but I do hope you can still find comfort here. She opened the door to a small, yet decently sized, room. A bed sat against the wall with a window above the smooth mahogany dresser. He looked around with a smirk on his face. This is certainly an upgrade. I'm glad. All should be accounted for. We usually preserve these rooms for traveling worshippers. But I suppose that you may rest here tonight. You should find a pair of soft pajamas for you to sleep in, and I'll come around with a basket. I don't suppose you'd like your clothes cleaned, would you? Now that you mention it, I wouldn't mind that at all. Wonderful. I will be back soon. Just make yourself at home, or whatever you may consider to be close to such a thing. She handed him the lantern and closed the door. He looked at Artemis, whom he had placed on the dresser as he pulled out the aforementioned pajamas. Ooh, these are cotton. Must have spent them ages to get the cotton this far north. He unclipped his cloak and began to undress, dropping them in the corner as he slipped on the pajamas. Artemis made her disapproval known. What's your problem now? She tilted her head. Am I not allowed just this one luxury? Please? Artemis squinted. Look, we don't even know what we're looking for at this point. A small break never hurt anyone. And if it's because you didn't get food at the bar, I saw you snag a fish out of the lake earlier. You're not slick, you know. Artemis squawked at him, a knock on the door startling them both. Come in. My apologies. I would have knocked sooner, but I didn't want to disrupt your conversation. It's all good. I was losing the argument anyways. Catherine giggled as Isaac scooped up his clothes. I'd lose any argument against her. She seems like a smart bird. Her eyes caught his left arm. Oh dear, are you alright? Oh, I'm fine. I just fell from a tree a week ago. Thanks again for offering to clean my clothes. My pleasure. She couldn't move her eyes away from his arm, feeling some great disturbance emanating from the limb. She spoke as she tore her mind away from it. Well, I'll be finishing up my duties. If you need me, I'll be in the bell tower. Alright, then good night. And thanks again for your hospitality. Of course, and good night to you as well. Catherine nodded as she closed the door, her footsteps disappearing behind the oak. In this room, in this small bit of solitude, he finally felt relaxed. A bed for him to rest, a roof to protect from the storm, and from the yawn that dared to escape his throat, he knew he was ready to rest. He soon found himself under the warm comfort of the blanket, Artemis perched on the windowsill next to him, her feathers fluffed and head tucked in. His mind ran through quite possibly dozens of thoughts, finding their never-ending nonsense slowly descending into the null silence of rest. The sweet sands of sleep had finally caught him, and his eyes began to close. A bell let out its vicious warding cry, yet he was undisturbed, instead finding serenity in its metallic howl. Green sparks slowly wafted through the air like wisps in a cool morning breeze, dancing from the palm of his left hand. And as he had a dozen times before, he let himself succumb to the comfort of sleep.